Alright, so I watched an anime recently called AI no Idenshi. This is definitely a good one. I'll recommend it, but it feels like a part of a much bigger story. And upon looking at the Wikipedia page, there are 3 manga series. No idea how much of it was covered, but would be stupid to assume that all 3 were. My problem was that the bigger story honestly seemed much weaker than the day-to-day part. Thankfully this one is mostly day-to-day, so it is a good recommendation. It's just, if there's a second season, I'm not sure I'm actually gonna recommend that one. What is it about? In the distant future of 2000-something, the AI becomes integrated into our daily lives. Seemingly every aspect is now done through them. From menial jobs to government and medicine, even allowing for such things as creating a movie about the people you know, just from a few prompts. But one would ask themselves, what good is it if we still don't understand it? What is a life for if every single aspect of it is controlled through imperceptible means by being beyond our understanding? The questions are countless, and I lack the eloquence to describe it without spoilers. What did I enjoy? I don't know if it can be considered a genre, but it's something I have witnessed before a handful of times. I guess in a way it can be described as a sitcom, but it's obviously not a comedy. The general idea is that there are main characters, they don't really change much, but something comes their way, and by the end of the episode everything returns back to the way it was. Kino's Journey is a good example. Here it's a clinic. People come to it, and usually there is some sort of philosophical or moral dilemma regarding whatever ails the people. My favorite being the one in episode 3. What is a heart? Does it even exist? We already know that anatomically it's only moving the blood around. So what if this was the future, where the brain is understood and fully replicated artificially? Does the AI have a heart then? Well, in a spiritual sense. I know I'm very clumsy in presenting this, but the ideas here are thought-provoking and especially hard-hitting today with the spread of AI in the last few years. This is a very strong and crucial part of the story. Aside from that, I like Teresa and her best friend. Teresa comes across as a fairly basic character, but as more gets revealed, she fully blooms. Her past and the way she used to be the reason for how she feels and how Breezy feels about her, well, it's good. Dr. Suda is okay, but I think it's a bit too bland to have an interesting story about him. It's more so about everyone surrounding him. Kinda like how Witcher is about Geralt, but he's a fairly generic guy, so it's all about everyone around him and the adventures he goes on. And that's about it. Although I guess one thing to mention is the direction and animation, because the entire thing feels outdated. In a good way. This sort of execution was done very often in the early 2000s or late 90s, something that pretty much stopped after 2005. Everything looks a bit plasticky, sometimes there is an awkward silence as the camera zooms in on the face, and actually generally there are a lot more slow and quiet moments. Lane comes to mind. There are a lot of moments like that on Lane. First season of Ghost in the Shell standalone complex comes to mind as well, but it's a bit too well animated. Here it's definitely more flawed. I'm a bit nostalgic about that time, so this was a breath of stale air. A familiar little puff of memories, but I can see always being a flaw too. It's just that it wasn't a flaw for me personally. What did I dislike? Well, questions being left up in the air, like the ending of a certain episode. Won't say which, but I think if you watch it's gonna be obvious which. It's actually fairly common to leave things unsaid here, and less is more and all that, but sometimes a man needs his answers. And there just aren't that many. Sometimes stories also go nowhere. A murderer comes to mind, and mangaka actually. It's like those were just unfinished. Not saying that it was a huge glaring flaw, but I would have enjoyed this anime more if there were more answers. Aside from that, I also disliked the ending. Thus far there is one season, but there is clearly more story. Problem is that it doesn't look interesting. I enjoyed this anime because it presents a viewer with a whole slew of questions, in a fairly simple setting, a clinic. Sometimes it's simple, sometimes complicated, sometimes it's as basic as a computer virus, but overall the formula was the same. The ending shakes up and goes into a direction I have zero interest in. I want to see Risa, I want to see more patience, I want to see moral dilemmas, and it looks like, spoilers by the way, it looks like it's going to become an action story, and these are just not the characters for it. Thankfully it's only a bit from the last episode, but maybe it could work, like Kurosawa's Monster. But I'm not getting my hopes up.